obsidian. Prepare yourself for the man of black.
Country, Europe, Japan, and other nations have needed the oil produced in the Middle East and North Africa to operate our expanding industrial economy. We have been steady customers for that oil, with our requirements growing and growing every year. Our economies are structured on the uninterrupted flow of this oil. We all depend on it. In the same way, that region depends on us for some of its critical needs. So the process involves, excuse me, a circular flow that requires the cooperation of all things to keep things moving. But it can be easily halted. Close an oil valve in the Middle East, and you threaten to shut down a farm tractor in our Middle West. Halt that tractor, and some people in the world will hunger for bread. Now, I don't expect that to happen in either case. As a matter of fact, it would be disastrous for all of us in all nations of the world. The energy crisis, however, is a challenge to this heritage of cooperation. It challenges oil producers and consumers alike to recognize anew the commonality of our interests. Last Friday, the majority leaders of the Congress asked me to delay scheduled increases in the import fees on foreign oil for another 60 days while they work out the specifics of their own energy policy. I find this request reasonable. The important thing is that the Congress is finally moving on our urgent national energy problem. I welcome these efforts and the leadership shown. I am therefore amending my proclamation to postpone for 2 months the increases scheduled for March and April. Hopefully, we can agree on an energy program by May 1st. A most compelling reason for this 60-day postponement is that I want no part in delaying the speedy enactment by the Congress of the income tax cuts which can be on this desk by the end of March. We have exactly 4 weeks. What we need now is a simple but substantial tax cut to revive our economy and make more jobs. What we need next is a comprehensive energy program to end our dependence on foreign oil production. One of our continuing tasks is to resolve issues that from time to time divide us. For example, we are now updating our relationship with Panama over the issue of the canal. This new relationship will accommodate the important interests of both of our countries and all of the nations of the world which depend upon the canal.
Una de nuestras tareas continuas es precisamente resolver aquellas cuestiones que de vez en cuando pudieran dividirnos. Por ejemplo, nosotros estamos en la actualidad poniendo al día nuestra relación con Panamá sobre el tema del canal. La nueva relación podrá acomodar los intereses importantes de ambos de nuestros países y de todas las naciones del mundo que dependen del canal.
The tradition of mutual cooperation, which is at the heart of our inter-American system, adds another dimension to the requirements of global interdependence.
La tradición de cooperación mutua que constituye el corazón mismo de nuestro sistema interamericano proporciona una dimensión adicional a las necesidades de interdependencia global. Nosotros debemos estar particularmente conscientes de la necesidad que existe de evitar cualesquiera daños innecesarios a los intereses de cada uno de nosotros. Por esta razón, yo estoy actualmente apoyando una modificación a la legislación recientemente aprobada por el Congreso que parece seleccionar a unas pocas naciones de este hemisferio para lo que pudiera considerarse como trato discriminatorio.
If I sign this bill, continuing controls, America's start on the road to energy independence could be delayed indefinitely. I am well aware of the reluctance of members of the Congress to face up to such a very difficult problem just as an election campaign is getting underway. For more than 8 months, I have tried to get the members of this Congress moving on a solution to this urgent problem of national energy independence. My latest effort at a compromise with the Congress has resulted in nothing more than this proposed 6-month extension of the existing law, which is no answer at all to a program of energy independence for the United States. During the 4 years that federal control programs have been in operation, controls which members of Congress now want to extend, the cost of energy to American consumers has soared, and our dependence on foreign oil has doubled. Still, Congress refuses to enact a national energy program. If this veto is sustained, I would accept a 45-day extension of controls to provide time to work with the leaders of the Congress, who have again assured me they will seek an acceptable compromise during this period. If all efforts at compromise fail, I will act to ensure an orderly transition from government controls to the free market.
To Phil Buchan, my counsel, and I said, can I pardon him? And he took a day or two to look at the options. He came back and said yes. And I decided that was the only way I could get rid of Mr. Nixon's problems that were taking 25% of my daily time, so I could spend 100% of my time on the problems of 230 million Americans.
You never felt manipulated in that time?
None whatsoever. I made the sole decision, and I have to say most of my staff disagreed with me, but I was absolutely convinced it was the right thing to do, and I'm even more convinced.
I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil.
Created the National Energy Dominance Council. It's going to accelerate domestic oil and gas production in America. Okay, E.J. Antoni joins me now. Wait a minute, E.J. We're already pumping more oil than we've ever pumped before. Now, if we get prices down 60 or 70%, why should you pump oil at that price? Because you can't make a profit.
Stuart, great question. It's going to require two things from this administration. One is going to be lower marginal tax rates on those producers, and the other thing is going to be a drastic reduction in the regulatory red tape that adds costs to the production process. So that way, if you get those costs down, all of a sudden, a well that previously was only viable at $80 or $90 a barrel now can be viable at $50 or $60 a barrel. That's a key component here, a key ingredient behind getting production up. You know, there was a study done by an economics professor, Casey Mulligan, where he found that we are millions of barrels below where we could be in terms of oil production, and it's due to the anti-energy policies that we have seen implemented over the last several years. So yes, production is up, but it would be up much more were it not, again, for all those anti-energy policies.
But it's going to take a long time, isn't it? Surely years before you can really ramp up oil and gas production and get it distributed.
Well, Stu, but the problem is that exact same argument was made during the Obama administration, for example. It was a huge part of the push against hydraulic fracturing to say, well, why would you even start these wells? It's going to take years before it has any impact. Okay, but what's the alternative? To not do anything and to see prices continue to ramp higher and higher? So I think that's all the more reason why we need to get rid of, again, that regulatory red tape that adds to the timeline. We need to get that down so we can get this product to market as soon as possible. But Stuart, the other thing that's really important to remember, we're in a bit of a unique moment right now in that well count has actually been going down even as production has gone up. In other words, we have been mothballing a lot of infrastructure under the Biden administration because we thought that, well, these things are just never going to be viable again. And so it would take actually a relatively short amount of time to return a lot of those wells to production. In other words, you can ramp up production faster today than you could at most other points in history.
Okay, we'll take that, and that's what we would love to see. E.J. Antoni, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again soon, E.J. Thanks a lot. Blames Biden for ending our country's energy independence. Watch this.
We had to fix the country. When I took this country over, it was broken. And we created a machine. And the oil was starting. We were energy independent. I got Anwar approved in Alaska. It's as big or bigger than Saudi Arabia. The first day of the Biden administration, they terminated the deal. It was all done. They're getting ready to drill. And Biden ended it. Brett, we were going to make so much money. Now everything was said. Then we got the COVID.
And then we cut it off. The governor of South Dakota is Kristi Noem, and Kristi Noem joins me now. Governor, how do we get back to energy independence? Because we can't just wave a magic wand, can we?
Well, we can get a new president.
Yes,
it's amazing what a president can do on the first day in office. You know, look at the damage that Joe Biden did. He did shut down drilling. He did end the Keystone Pipeline on the very first day, and that crippled us, and it emboldened our enemies. So you get the right person in that office, and things can change pretty quickly.
He wants to go back to the policies of his first term. And I think most people want that too. Certainly most Republicans do. But they don't necessarily want his persona. Where do you stand on that?
Well, his policies were great for South Dakota. You know, I got the chance to work with President Trump when I was in Congress on tax reform, which was incredible. Gave people more money in their pockets. As governor, he let me do my job. He let me make decisions that were best for my state during the COVID pandemic. We never once shut down businesses, never mandated anything, and President Trump let me do that. If Joe Biden had been in office, he would have absolutely crushed us. And so that's the difference in leadership and the consequences. It matters who wins these offices and the decisions that they make, and that's why we're suffering so much by having this administration there.
South Dakota has, I think it's an all-time low unemployment rate, 1.9%. Obviously, you need workers. Here's the ad campaign to attract them. Just let me watch this for a second. Roll tape.
South Dakota's hiring. As the first state to bounce back from the pandemic, we've got one of the nation's strongest economies and more jobs than we can fill. That's why I'm pitching in.
Okay, Governor, how do you actually attract people to South Dakota? I mean, it is a fairly flat state and it's very cold in the winter.
It's beautiful. We do not have beaches. You are correct. We do not have beaches or beautiful Januaries, but it's amazing to me the people that are moving to our state for freedom. In fact, we've been growing 5 to 10 times the national average because people want to come here and have a government that respects them, that protects their freedom. So we have done modeling and identified and gathered information on over 2 million people in this country that want to move to South Dakota right now. So this national marketing campaign is targeting them and others and telling them about the opportunities that we have. We are training apprentices in so many different industries, recognizing licenses from across the country. When they go to freedomworkshere.com, we will connect them with people that will help them find homes, school districts that are perfect for their children, get them into a job that will give them a career for the rest of their life, that they just don't have that opportunity in another state. So, Stuart, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of the nation in South Dakota right now. So everybody works and everybody takes care of each other. We just have businesses that have moved here that need more people to fill their open positions, and we're going to make sure that those people know about all the opportunities we have in our state.
That was a great advertisement for the great and beautiful state of South Dakota with an unemployment rate of 1.9%. That's impressive. The governor, Kristi Noem.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, ma'am. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Day after Congress certified Trump's election victory, the president-elect went on a tirade about everything from drilling for oil to obtaining Greenland, even making Canada a U.S. state. Jessica Moore breaks down the highlights of Trump's speech 2 weeks ahead of his inauguration.
We are at the beginning of a great, beautiful golden age of business. And I think we're also at a golden age of common sense.
Less than 2 weeks until he retakes the Oval Office, President-elect Trump outlined a host of agenda items, telling reporters he will turn the economy around very quickly, starting with a reversal of President Biden's offshore drilling ban on day one.
So they say we're going to have a smooth transition. All they do is talk. It's all talk. Everything they do is talk. We're going to have a smooth transition, and then they take 625 million acres and they essentially landmark it so you can't ever drill there again. Well, we're going to be drilling, and I will reverse it immediately. It'll be done immediately, and we will drill, baby, drill.
Mr. Trump vowed to use economic force to influence Canada and Mexico, slapping both countries with steep tariffs if they don't comply with his demands, including the suggestion that Canada become part of the United States.
Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place. So we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
The president-elect also has his eye on Greenland, sending his son Donald Trump Jr. to the Danish territory on Tuesday. Trump would not rule out using military force to obtain Greenland and retake control of the Panama Canal.
We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
Mr. Trump also reiterated his earlier statement on the Israeli hostage crisis, saying if the hostages in Gaza are not released by the time he takes office on January 20th, quote, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Trump also blamed the Russia-Ukraine war on what he called the incompetence of the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, saying it never would have happened on his watch. Jessica Moore, CBS News, New York.
Had no money when I was president. They were out of money. They were bust. They had no money. They weren't giving it to Hamas. They weren't giving it to Hezbollah. They weren't giving it to anybody because they didn't have any money. They were just about bust. And in fact, I put sanctions on last night. Any oil that anybody takes from Iran is not allowed to do business in the United States of it.
President Donald Trump bringing back a familiar message from his campaign, talking about what he would have done in Iraq. Listen.
You brought up Iraq and something you said that could affect American troops in recent days. You said we should have kept the oil, but okay, maybe we'll have another chance. What did you mean by that?
Well, we should have kept the oil when we got out. And you know, it's very interesting. Had we taken the oil, you wouldn't have ISIS, because they fuel themselves with the oil. That's where they got the money.
So you believe we can go in and take the oil?
We should have taken the oil. You wouldn't have ISIS if we took the oil.
question isn't whether he believes it. The question is why he believes he should break international law, because that's what taking the oil would amount to. So how are these comments playing to an international?
Just want to say that on behalf of this great group of people, these are hard-working people. These are fantastic people, and we can add a few names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He came and he's going to help make America healthy again. And now he's a great guy, and he really means it. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him go to it. I just said, but, Bobby, leave the oil to me. We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby. We're going to be paying down debt. We're going to be reducing taxes. We can do things that nobody else can do. Nobody else is going to be able to do it. China doesn't have what we have. Nobody has what we have. But we have the greatest people also. Maybe that's the most important thing. This campaign has been so historic in so many ways. We've built the biggest, the broadest, the most unified coalition. They've never seen anything like it in all of American history. They've never seen any, young and old, men and women, rural and urban. And we had them all helping us tonight. When you think, I mean, I was looking at it, I was watching it. They had some great analysis of the people that voted for us. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. They came from all corners, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment, uniting citizens of all backgrounds around a common cause.
There's a dirty little secret in Trump's big, ugly budget bill. It's filled with massive giveaways to big oil. It's not enough that Republicans are trying to push through tax cuts that will predominantly flow to the wealthy, while making brutal cuts to Medicaid and food assistance. After spending over $200 million to elect Donald Trump and congressional Republicans in 2024, the oil and gas industry is coming to collect. First, Republicans' big, beautiful bill makes devastating cuts to clean energy. These investments have helped boost and diversify our energy independence and rely less on big oil. They've lowered Americans' utility bills while also creating hundreds of thousands of clean energy jobs, many of them unionized. The biggest beneficiaries of these jobs, Republican-controlled districts. Go figure. Second, the bill extends massive handouts to corporations that especially help big oil, such as allowing corporations to write off the cost of investments faster than they'd normally be able to. And the bill allows oil and gas corporations to pay the government to avoid environmental reviews, while fast-tracking permits and approvals. Even worse, the Republican bill leases nearly 300 million additional acres of our public lands and waters to big oil, while reducing the fees they have to pay the government to drill. This will harm endangered species, ruin pristine habitats, and pollute our communities. Altogether, oil and gas corporations will rake in billions of your taxpayer dollars thanks to this budget bill, and it will result in higher energy costs while polluting our planet and slowing our transition to clean energy. The big, beautiful bill is in fact a big, dirty nightmare. Call your senators and representatives and demand they vote no on this big, ugly bamboozle.
Will get you everywhere. One defining characteristic of President Donald Trump has long been that he judges worth in part based on how loyal people are to him. And this week we're seeing this manifest rapidly in the form of something of a Trump loyalty rewards program, pardons and job offers. Let's start with his latest pardon palooza. Yesterday he pardoned his reality TV brethren Todd and Julie Chrisley, who could walk out of prison in Pensacola, Florida at any moment. The two are stars of the show Chrisley Knows Best on USA Network.
We're the Chrisleys, Todd and Julie Chrisley. We live in a neighborhood north of Atlanta, a gated neighborhood with celebrities here.
The Chrisleys traded that gated neighborhood for the gates of a prison. They were convicted of bank and tax fraud in 2022, conspiring to defraud banks in Atlanta of more than $30 million. Their Trump loyalty connection, the Chrisleys' daughter Savannah, spoke at the Republican National Convention last year. She helped campaign for Trump. Another Trump pardon yesterday went to Paul Walzak, a former nursing home executive who pleaded guilty to tax crimes. He admitted to using money earmarked for employees' taxes to fund his own rather extravagant lifestyle. The loyalty connection, his mommy dearest. The New York Times reports that Walzak's pardon application to Trump said that his mother raised millions for Trump and other Republicans, and also highlighted her role trying to hurt President Biden's 2020 campaign. But Walzak's reprieve did not come, the Times reports, until Mom showed up last month at a $1 million per person fundraising dinner at Mar-a-Lago that included direct access to Trump. It is not clear whether Walzak's mom donated the $1 million. Still, a few weeks later, poof, a pardon. Before that, on Monday, Trump pardoned former Culpeper, Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins, as we reported yesterday, recently convicted of federal bribery charges, which outraged the good citizens of Culpeper County. He was caught accepting cash-stuffed envelopes from rich civilians who wanted badges. The loyalty connection. Well, Jenkins is a long-time Trump supporter who reportedly appealed to Trump directly for clemency. More in just a moment on Trump's talk today of yet another controversial pardon possibility. But first, the other benefit of Trump's loyalty rewards program after Trump fired inspectors general at 19 government agencies in an unprecedented purge at the beginning of this new administration. Some of his picks to replace those inspectors general have rather partisan backgrounds with a history of MAGA Trump loyalty. Trump's Inspector General nominee for Health and Human Services, for example, Thomas March Bell, resigned from a government job over an allegation of mishandling $8,000 in taxpayer money. There's Trump's choice for Veterans Affairs watchdog, Cheryl Mason. Cheryl Mason remains a senior advisor to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, according to documents reviewed by CNN, which might, of course, make it difficult to be an independent voice of oversight over his department. Trump's pick to investigate waste, fraud, and abuse at the Department of Labor is Anthony D'Esposito. He is a Trump-supporting former Republican congressman who lost his New York seat to a Democrat after D'Esposito was accused of putting his mistress and his fiance's daughter on his payroll. Taken together, it could all be perceived as a great deal of incentive to join the Trump loyalty rewards program, though points, we should note, do expire. Let's go to CNN's Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, more Trump pardons coming down just in the last hour.
Yeah, Jake, we saw the president earlier in the Oval Office, and clearly since then there has been a lot of use of the president's pardon power that has been happening here at the White House, because we already knew about some of these key names. The Chrisleys, as we reported on yesterday, the president called to inform their daughter that her parents would be getting a pardon. We should expect to see at least one of them leave prison as soon as today. Also, Michael Grimm, the former New York congressman, who has been pardoned as well. But we're also just getting a list of a slew of other names, Jake, that the president has now pardoned. That includes the former governor of Connecticut, John Rowland, who was twice convicted. It also includes a rapper who goes by the name of NBA Youngboy. He was convicted in some federal gun crimes cases, and a slew of other names on here as well, Jake. Kevin Basden, Mark Bashaw, Tanner Mansell, and John Moore Jr. A few of those names at the end that may not be household names, but clearly each have individual reasons why the president has chosen to grant them clemency with this power, and to use the power that every president has, and certainly President Biden himself we saw using on his way out of the White House as well. But President Trump's, what's notable here, Jake, in addition to the names that you just read off, and clearly the connections that they have politically when it comes to this president, is seeing such a slew of pardons so early on in the administration. Trump came into his second term pardoning people on day one. He pardoned virtually everyone who was convicted in a crime related to January 6th from the Oval Office within hours of taking the oath. And then today we are continuing to see him use this power, wield this power. In addition to this list of pardons, Jake, there's also a few commutations as well that are included in this list. And one note, when we saw the president earlier inside the Oval Office, he was asked whether or not he is considering also pardoning the people who were convicted in the plot to kidnap the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who herself was here at the White House not too long ago. And the president said, yes, he was, Jake.
Caitlin Collins, thanks so much. And Caitlin, of course, is going to have much more tonight at 9 on her own show, The Source with Caitlin Collins. CNN has some brand new reporting on the man in charge of helping secure new pardons for President Trump and how he's building this list. I want to bring in CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed. Paula, tell us more.
So, Jake, after Ed Martin failed to secure confirmation as the U.S. Attorney here in D.C., President Trump tapped him for 2 really big jobs at the Justice Department, one of which is the pardon attorney. Now, historically, this is an office that vets requests for clemency and makes recommendations to the White House. Something that is unique to President Trump is he makes a lot of those decisions himself. But now I'm told, with Martin in charge of this office, he has a whole staff that can help vet these requests that I'm told are pouring in from law firms, lobbyists, and interest groups, all trying to seek some form of clemency for various individuals. Now, I'm told Martin is going to ask everyone to fill out a traditional pardon application because, as you know, there have been a lot of questions about how exactly you get clemency from President Trump. So Martin trying to establish a paper trail here. I'm told he has already vetted dozens of requests for commutations and made recommendations on those. But this particular job, Jake, this gives him a lot of power to reward those who have been loyal to Trump.
And Paula, Ed Martin has also been tapped to lead the Justice Department's weaponization working group. What is that exactly? What have you learned about what he's doing at that job?
Yeah, he is a multi-hyphenate. He has multiple jobs here at the Justice Department. And on her first day in office, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she established this so-called weaponization working group, and she laid out its mission, which is to investigate what they allege is the weaponization of the Justice Department. In their definition, that means the state and federal investigations into now President Trump, as well as the prosecutions related to January 6th and some other conservative causes. Now, the Justice Department has been working on these investigations for the past few months, but now that they've put Martin in charge of this work, he is breathing new life into this. I'm told that in just the past few weeks since he took over, he's already sent letters, he has made calls, and even done in-person visits to some individuals he believes may have relevant information. Now, he has not sent anyone a letter to indicate that they are specifically a target of this investigation. Right now, he's just looking for anyone who can provide relevant information or who is willing to cooperate. But there is not an expectation that everyone is going to be willing to cooperate. Now, Martin has previously said even if he can't bring criminal charges against some individuals, that he may, quote, name and shame them, which, Jake, as you know, is sort of a violation of the norms at the Justice Department, which are that if you are not charged, usually they do not release any details related to your investigation.
All right, Paula Reed, thanks so much. Let's discuss this all with Maggie Haberman, the New York Times Pulitzer Prize winning White House correspondent who has a plethora of Trump knowledge and insight. Shocking but not surprising is a phrase that we use a lot during the Trump era. Like, I can't believe he did that, but on the other hand, I can completely believe he did it. For example, he pardoned those cop-beating January 6 prisoners. So is it really that surprising that he would contemplate pardoning the men convicted of plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and yet here we are.
Right. No, I mean, look, it's not surprising. He has made expansive use of pardons, as you say. I was thinking as you were talking about the way in which these pardons, and some of this is reporting that my colleague Ken Vogel did, about how people have made massive donations for pardons. I was thinking about the end of Bill Clinton's second term, where he issued a series of controversial clemency grants. Those got investigated. There were days and days of headlines. This has all been literally out of the gate with President Trump. He did this on his first day with the January 6th convictees, and he has continued to reward people who he thinks are loyal to him, and it's redefining a version of what he thinks is justice. It's people who are aligned with him, who are on the side of right, and people who are not are being looked at.
And
not everybody, but some.
Yeah, and Trump just nominated his former personal attorney, Emile Beauvais, to be a federal appeals court judge. He's currently a top Trump Justice Department official. How significant is that, do you think?
So it's interesting. First of all, even the idea that four of Trump's personal attorneys are in the top ranks of the Justice Department, I think back to, the Bill Clinton era. If he had put his personal lawyers there, what a daze of outrage it would have been, and it just sort of doesn't get much notice. Beauvais has been there for a very short amount of time. That's mostly what I am struck by, is that he is leaving after, I think it's less than 6 months. This nomination is coming after less than 6 months. And so I'll be curious to see who replaces him, but it gives Trump another ally as a judge in a court at a time when both Democrats and Republicans have figured out how to disagree.
You
Mr. Obsidian, prepare yourself for the Man of Black.